Hello, my name is Peniel. I'm here to talk about one of my original songs, Alive, Alive, Alive.
All this time I can't help but feel like I messed up on the everything of life. Crawl back away from the city life. From alive, alive, alive.
I specifically chose this as the topic because it's kind of like a stamp on which, in a way, transitioned to a more realer sense of who I am as an artist. I wrote this song at a time where I didn't really know how to process a lot of my loneliness and how that ties into what it means to be alive and to have relationships and getting the sense that things end and you can never be really prepared for that. But it's all part of the grand scheme of things, which is just experiencing aliveness. And there's something in the air that I can't not really fear, a niche I can scratch, or the lump on the back of my throat I can clear. That's something I despair, that I cannot ignore the care. The twitch in my eye, all of you can decipher, I'm more than I can give. This first verse basically talks about the uneasy feeling you get sometimes when everything is way too overwhelming. Actually, the first line specifically was inspired by one movie I really like, which is Everything Everywhere All at Once, where they kind of mentioned that there's an uneasiness that everybody kind of experiences, but they can't truly understand. And also how that ties in to my relationships and how people know when I feel some sort of unease. And I specifically wrote that in there, or paired those two concepts or situations together, because I wanted to introduce the real life aspect of my own lives, which is how much my friends know me, because later on in this song, it kind of explains how this specific friends or the specific connection that I had to that is not as constant. So the unease stayed, but the consistency of the bond just slowly fades away. The chorus starts with, all this time I can't help but feel like I messed up on the everything of life, crawled back away from the city light, from alive, alive. This first chorus basically is just a kind of lament about how I can't fully feel like I've experienced a lot in life. And I know I'm quite young, but there's always that weird sense in your 20s where you feel like everything is over. It's a weird mix of it's a new beginning and I can do so many things, but also a huge chunk of your life, which is your teenage years, is just over. And you start to reflect on a lot of things that you missed out. And you kind of start reflecting as well about what it means to be youthful. And yeah, that's kind of, the chorus just expresses a lot of that pressure and frustration. The next few verses go, you're someone I must spare from something like me I can't dare. To crack from the pressure of 20s light banter, I don't know how to fare. Well, that's something I prepared to lose in favor of my stare. I take pride in so lightly the joys of just watching contented, I swear. These next few verses talk about the weird disconnect between my wants in life and forming true connection or keeping connection that I already have versus who I am as a person, because I'm quite introverted and shy, and my favorite kind of pastime, I guess, like people watching or also just watching a lot or consuming a lot of stories, because I love just anything that captures a lot of life and different angles outside of my own. But what happens with that is you kind of lose yourself in other people's stories, and you realize later on, I haven't made my own stories. So that's the dichotomy versus how I think that's a weird fault in, or like I see my own fault in that in terms of, let's say, a friend group or just a relationship in general, because the first line says, "You're someone I must spare. From something like me I can't tear." Because I already know that with 20s light banter, I'm quite difficult with that, and I leave a lot of dead air in conversation. So I just feel like I'm holding back a lot of people, and that's kind of the frustration that I let out in that verse. And there's not really a conclusion to it about like how, if I've accepted that, or if if they've accepted that for me, or they see something else in me that I don't really. The back half of the chorus, which is the second chorus, it goes, "You and I walked to the end of the line, packed up your things and left this behind. I can't say I'm surprised. In fact, I'm quite mesmerized. You're alive, alive, alive." This chorus explains a lot of the concept of things ending or bonds ending, but not even necessarily like a complete end, but just you can feel you sort of drift in relationships when you feel like there's not a lot you can offer to it anymore, or you don't necessarily fit a specific puzzle in their life, and that's okay, because it reminds me a lot of like childhood friendships where the love still stays years later, and you still think of them and you can still talk to them, but to some degree there's not a lot of space for you in their life, and maybe vice versa for yours, and that's fine. So, and that's why I had to like add the line of, "I can't say I'm surprised. In fact, I'm quite mesmerized." Because there was a point last year that I thought I wasn't necessarily fitting in specific people's spheres, and I didn't really fault them for that, because I felt like they were doing another experience and they were being alive in their own sense while I'm being alive in my own. And they don't fit, but that's fine. And yeah, just people trying to find their aliveness and the acceptance of that. I wrote the song Alive, Alive, Alive around late 2022 or early 2023, around that gap of time. I wrote it during a period of my life where I was processing some form of frustration or some form of pressure that comes with time and the concept of wasting your time or wasting experiences or wasting your youth, and how that plays into relationships and stuff. I wrote it under an hour or like for like a full hour, because it's one of my favorite songs, because it's one of the songs that I've written that was really just a stream of consciousness, and I could feel how of its time it is, or the time capsule effect of it, and how I felt at that time. And even with that aspect, it still rings true until now. So I process it through this song. And I came out of it having that sense of pride in summarizing a feeling that I don't think I've experienced in full before. And it's an ironic thing, because the song is about my lack of experiences, but that experience itself was an experience. And yeah. Again, my name is Peniel. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at 0518_Sunbeam. My Facebook is Sunbeam0518. And my Spotify is Peniel. I have 3 songs out.